what is it, 4 years ago, when I introduced the Respect for Marriage Act to repeal DOMA, I had members of Congress, liberals, gay groups saying, don't do it. Don't introduce a repeal DOMA bill. It's getting the wrong issue on the table. We should concentrate on an Employment Non-Discrimination Act. Don't get into that debate. 4 years ago. And now, looking back, it looks like such a mild thing, but remember how fast this has changed, and he could not have anticipated that in 1996.
And don't forget, there's nothing worse than being a leader and getting out there, looking over your shoulder and finding no one's behind you. And I think that was kind of what he was seeing. And there's also the heat of the campaign thing. I thought the worst thing that happened, I thought he showed his real commitment after he got elected and did these executive orders and tried to change the military. And he had been so active in the Democratic Leadership Council, and here it is, the Democratic Leadership Council going after him at 100 miles an hour, trying to undo it. But so I think he gets a little credit there.
But you make a very important point. I mean, it is for sure a mixed record. It is, you know, a guy trying to do the right thing most of the time and sometimes giving in to political expediency. And I certainly don't mean to suggest that Mr. Shrum made up that story. I mean, I think people may remember it differently. You know, it happened a long time ago. It was a little footnote to history. But I will say this, that, you know, you have to view it in the context of the moment. And I think that, you know, President Clinton, like most other Americans, has evolved. You know, what happened to him happened to everybody else.
Right.
And it is, you know, for those of us who have been involved in this a long time, it is an education campaign. It is not a war. I mean, it is not about assigning blame for not being perfect.
I understand, although a lot of these evolutions too, it's like the polls have evolved too. So of course the politicians are.
Well, but if you look at that, which is why now he's great on LGBT issues, and he's out there, he's an advocate, and it would be nice to see him now sort of, I guess, do more to try to repair his legacy, for example, by pushing for the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which when he signed DOMA, he said that I'd like to see Congress push this as well. It failed by one vote, 49 to 50. It now has 53 co-sponsors in the Senate, and it should be, Harry Reid expects it to get more time in the Senate after the July 4th recess, so it'd be nice to see President Clinton, for example, push for that more.
All right, a politician who stood up for gay Americans when it mattered then and now. That's next. So Congressman Schroeder, we just talked about Bill Clinton and sort of the complicated legacy there. And, now Jerry Brown ran against Bill Clinton for president. Bill Clinton won. Bill Clinton climbed higher in politics than Jerry Brown. So maybe there's a lesson there. But I am struck by how consistent on this issue Jerry Brown has been, going back to a time when the issue was, could gays teach school?
Right, but I think he also came from California, which is a little more progressive than maybe Arkansas and the background of the South. I also wonder, and this is maybe crazy, but I'm from the West and high altitude, maybe it's my brain, but I often wonder if we turned this argument around, and if the gay and lesbian community had said, we're special people, so don't come and ask us to serve in the military, because you know what, we don't want to do that. And don't ask us to take responsibility, because no, we're not going to do this marriage stuff. I wonder if the right wing would then say, oh no, you're going to have to come forward and do this. And so I so often find that we who are progressives are always on the defensive end. They're coming at us at 100 miles an hour. And they have framed it. Oh, you people want something from us. You're the takers.
The homosexual agenda.
Exactly, the homosexual agenda, the takers. I don't know, but I do really salute Jerry Brown. I mean, he's been very consistent through all of this, and he has succeeded politically.
Well, what I'm curious though too about, now there were so many different ways the court could have settled Prop 8 this week, and what they settled on was that the state of California didn't defend it, therefore didn't have standing. They could have made a much more sweeping declaration that gay marriage is legal across the country. They could have made it, states that have civil unions should have gay marriage. I guess, Amanda, is there some issue maybe with what Jerry Brown did was noble in a way, and it ended up getting gay marriage for his state, but it gave the court an out to be less ambitious, less bold than maybe it could have been?
It did give the court an out, although the Obama administration also decided not to defend DOMA, which made the House GOP step in and perhaps led to the defeat of DOMA because John Boehner decided to defend it. So it worked sort of the other way on that case. But, I mean, you know, there is the possibility, though, that the court could have said that states don't have to, you know, that Prop 8, you know, would have been upheld. I mean, it could have hurt the other way. So I think what Jerry Brown did was, I think what he did was right. I think it was in line with what he has stood on. And when Prop 8 was struck down, he immediately, before the stay was lifted by the Ninth Circuit, said, go ahead, you know, the state can start issuing marriage licenses to gay couples, even before it was clear if the clerks could actually do that.
Which was
It's very
I loved it.
It's very refreshing to see someone be like Jerry Brown be consistently progressive and consistently courageous.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's been fine and excellent on this throughout. I think what the court did is very interesting. They ducked it on standing, although to be fair, Chief Justice Roberts has been trying to narrow standing on a host of issues, and so that was consistent for him. But beyond that, if you look at Justice Kennedy, Justice Kennedy wrote the majority decision in the Romer case in Colorado. He wrote the majority decision outlawing anti-sodomy statutes in the Lawrence case 10 years to the day before DOMA. He wrote the majority decision in DOMA. He was careful to not find DOMA unconstitutional on a straight equal protection argument, because if you did that, it would be impossible to distinguish the Prop 8 case, except perhaps on standing. It would be impossible to say a state can get away with it. He came up with this sort of half federalism, half equal protection. It's a violation of equal protection because you're upsetting the favorable thing that the state wanted to do to the same group of people, which is sort of a strange amalgam. But Justice Scalia was right when he wrote in his dissent that it is impossible to see how the court can avoid a couple of years from now outlawing state anti-marriage statutes, given Justice Kennedy's reasoning, because he'll obviously go full steam in the next, if he's at all consistent in the next case.
Well, which is an interesting, you know, we were talking earlier in the show about how the seeds have been planted sort of on the right when it comes to like affirmative action and the Voting Rights Act for these things that plays that play out in several acts and that ultimately lead to it may work the other way.
Justice Scalia wrote in his dissent in the Lawrence case that the rationale of the court would lead inexorably to saying that it's an that anti-marriage statutes and anti-marriage equality statutes are a violation of equal protection. He said that again here.
Let's hope it's true, right?
Well, we have a couple of potential test cases coming. The first state where I think this might be next, you know, kind of be litigated is New Jersey. We'll talk about that and where this battle is moving next after this.
Right.
So gay marriage is legal again in California now, and we want to talk about where this is going to happen next. We actually have a map that sort of shows the various statuses out there for the different states. Can put that up. In the blue states, it's legal. You see California now has flipped, and a few other states in recent months have flipped too, like Minnesota, Rhode Island. Green is what I want to kind of focus on right now, and you see a couple of those. Green, these are states that have civil unions, domestic partnerships, that don't have gay marriage. They have the rights of marriage, basically, without calling it marriage. In New Jersey's the particularly interesting one there, because the question is that the legislature, the Democratic legislature in New Jersey, you have votes there for gay marriage. You have a Republican governor, Chris Christie, who has vetoed it, who will veto it. The question A is, will the legislature now override Chris Christie? The second question in New Jersey, though, is that the state Supreme Court there a few years ago ruled that you can't distinguish between, you can have civil unions, right. You can call them civil unions as long as you get everything that you get in a marriage. And with DOMA now being,
it is clearly not the same.
Being right, you now have federal benefits for heterosexual married couples in New Jersey that will not necessarily apply to the civil union, to the gay civil union couples. So New Jersey now really looks like it's going to be the next test case for this.
So there are two other questions, and those are two of there are four scenarios presented to the people in New Jersey, right? It matters if you live in New Jersey and Chris Christie is your governor, you can't get married. But if you live in New York, just across the way, and Andrew Cuomo is your governor, you can get married, right? So there are two other scenarios. One is Chris Christie might change his mind, I haven't given up hope for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I see that one.
But I think things are traveling. I think things are happening so quickly that he might actually change his mind.
And the 2016 Republican presidential prospect.
It's possible. It's possible. The other thing that could happen, of course, is that this gets put on the ballot in New Jersey, and there is over the latest polling shows that over 60% of the voters in New Jersey want their citizens to have the right to same-sex marriage.
No, I think it would pass if it was on the ballot in New Jersey. The question is, do
you put rights on the ballot?
Is that something you should be doing?
You should,
well, you shouldn't have to be doing it. Should we say that?
I think you shouldn't have to be doing it too. But I think in a place like New Jersey, I mean, I know that for a long time the gay rights movement, of which I am a part, has said under no circumstances will we endorse putting our civil rights on the ballot. And I think for a long time that's made sense. But in a place like New Jersey, where it looks like it would pass fairly easily, and where Governor Christie, who looks like he's also going to be governor for a good long time, is going to block it, I think that we might want to really seriously consider accepting his invitation. This is an invitation he's made. He said, I'm going to veto it because I don't personally support it. But go ahead and put it on the ballot. He said, I'll support your right to put it on the ballot. I think we ought to seriously consider it.
Because right now